I mean, you don't have to, yes, you have to memorize them. All right, so as a rule of thumb, because we are in advanced algebra, I want you guys to take all of your equations to standard form. In order to take things to standard form, you should know all three different forms because it kind of just works successively between the three of them. So to start out, point-slope form. Point-slope form is your most basic form for a linear equation because all you need is a point and you need a slope. So if you remember, your point-slope form is y minus y sub 1 equals m times the quantity x minus x sub 1. So m represents what? Slope, right? And then the only reason why we have an x sub 1 and a y sub 1 is because we only need 1 point. So you're going to put your y coordinate here, y coordinate, and you'll put your x coordinate here. Okay, remember when you graph equations, you need to have a standard y and a standard x in there because that's where you're putting in your input to get your output. So you don't put anything in the normal x and y's. So you put your y coordinate of your point in y sub 1, x coordinate of your point in x sub 2, or x sub 1. All right, what does slope intercept look like? Kyle?
Is that the x2 minus x1?
You're thinking slope. Slope intercept. Kayla? It's our most favorite one, right?
Huh?
It's our favorite one. Your favorite one? What is it? Go ahead. What do you got?
Y equals mx plus
Yeah,
b.
y equals mx plus b. Good. Yeah, you're thinking of how to find slope, Kyle, I think. So y equals mx plus b is our slope intercept form. So again, m represents our slope. B represents your y intercept. Now the beauty of how we go from one to the other is if you start with point slope form, you can distribute out your m and then move your other y sub 1 over to turn it into slope intercept form. Then all I need to go from here to standard form is physically just move this mx over to the other side. Okay? Because if you remember, standard form is where the variables are on the same side and your constants on the other. So they use the ax plus by equals c. So again, do you need to technically memorize ax plus by equals c? No. But you should remember standard form means I have both the x and the y's on the same side. And we're going to just keep working through those processes as we go. Okay, so I'm going to want your answers in standard form. The textbook answers, looks like they have them in slope intercepts form. So if you're checking your answers, they're going to be in slope intercept, it looks like, unless it's called for it. All right, so let's go ahead and write some equations of a line. So find the equation of a line with the slope of 1/3 and passing through the point -2, 5. All right, so I'm given a point. I'm given a slope. So I'm going to start with point slope form. Okay, well, our slope is 1/3, so that's your m. Here's your point, so here's your 1 point that you only have, so that's your x sub 1, y sub 1. So now we're going to plug it into our point slope form. So y minus my y sub 1, which is 5, equals our slope, which is 1/3, times x. Now be careful, if I do a minus a -2, what's going to happen? Jamin, yeah. Perfect. So we got to make sure we remember to do that. So that becomes a plus. Okay, so now I have it written, if I simplify that, y minus 5 equals 1/3 times x plus 2. Point and slope form. Well, let's keep going. Now the next step would be to take it to slope-intercept form. To take it to slope-intercept form, I'm going to distribute this 1/3. So we get 1/3 x plus 2/3. And we distribute equals to y minus 5. To get it into slope-intercept form, this y needs to be by itself, so I'm going to add 5 over, and the only place I'm adding 5 to is the 2/3, because those are your constants. Oh boy. Bless you. Got some fractions. If only my head had a math frac button of its own. It doesn't, so I'll do some common denominators. So 2/3 plus 15/3. So that gets me to 17/3. So I get y equals 1/3 x plus 17/3. That would be my answer in slope-intercept form. So, depending on what the directions are asking, here it is in point-slope form. Here's my answer in slope-intercept form. Let's go one step further and take it to standard form. So I'm going to get rid of this stuff up top, give myself space. So to take it to standard form, all I need to do, well, not all that I need to do, but the start of it would be to move this 1/3 x over to the other side. So if I have a positive 1/3 x here, what's it going to be on the other side? Negative. So we get a negative 1/3 x plus y equals 17/3. Now here are your rules of thumbs about standard form. Your x coefficient, I don't care about the y coefficient, my x coefficient can't be a negative, which it is right now, and it can't be a fraction. Well, I really can't have any fractions anywhere in this whole entire equation. So right now it is a negative. So what could I do to the whole equation to not make it become a negative? Multiply everything by -1, or just change the sign of everything. Okay, so that makes it become a 1/3 x minus y equals negative 17/3. Okay, so x coefficient can't be negative. Let's jot that down. Okay, so we just took care of that. And then the second rule is we can't have fractions. Can't have fractions. So now think back to when we had equations with fractions and we would think of a strategically thought out number to multiply the whole entire equation by to get rid of it. What would be the smart number to multiply everything by here? 3. Good. So we're going to multiply everything by 3 because both my denominators have 3 in them, so that's nice. So now 3 times 1/3 would leave us with just 1x. 3 times a negative y would be negative 3y. And then 3 times negative 17/3 would just leave you with the numerator of negative 17. So now I have it all the way down to standard form. Okay, so we just went through all 3 of those series. All right, gonna have you try one again, Jamin?
So will the quiz just be like putting them in one sub form and then putting them in...
Yeah, I mean the directions here say, I mean it's specific, like 23 through 31, it says write in slope-intercept form, identify the slope, identify the y-intercept, and then graph it. So it'll say specifically what to go through. But me personally, if it doesn't specify, I'll say take it all the way to standard form, which then means you should go through all the process. Kyle? Yeah. All right, so try one on your own. See if you can write it all the way down to standard form for the equation of a line that has a slope of 1/5 and passes through the point, let's go 10, -1. Different forms. Hopefully you got your point slope form. You didn't mess up with the +1. Okay. Slope intercept form gets you to y equals 1/5 x minus 3. What would be the y-intercept of that equation? -3, right? The slope of 1/5. And then taking it to standard form, you should be able to get it to x minus 5y equals 15. Out of these three, which form would you prefer if you were asked to graph the line? Damon? Slope intercept? Yeah. If you did it slope intercept, what would you do? Start at -3 and then go up 1 over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And then we could graph it. If you did it with point slope form, you could plot the point 10, -1, which would be somewhere out here, and then go up 1 over 5, or you can go backwards 2, remember, so we can go down 1 to the left 5, which would get me a point over here. Good. All right. What if I don't give you the slope right away and I only give you 2 points? So now I'm going to give you the points 2, -4, and 5, -6. So what do we need to find first before we can even start with point slope form? We need to find the slope, which is what you did last section. So finding slope. So subtract our y's, -6 minus a -4, all over 5 minus 2. So keep, change, change. -6 plus 4 is -2 over 3. So my slope is -2/3. All right. We've got 2 points. For point slope form, we only need 1 point, so now we get to be choosy. Which one do you like better? The first or the second? First, smaller numbers, sure. So we'll stick with 2, -4 as our point. Plug it into point slope form. So it's going to be y plus 4 equals -2/3 x minus 2. There's my point slope form. Distribute to get to -2/3 x plus 4/3. Bring down our y plus 4. Adding or subtracting 4 from both sides. Again, here your math frac button will be your friend. My head doesn't have a math frac button, so 4/3 minus 4, common denominator of 3 would be 4/3 minus 12/3. So that's getting me -8/3. So we get y equals -2/3 x minus 8/3. There's my slope intercept form. Okay. Why would it be easier to graph the point and the slope as opposed to your y-intercept? Because here we're dealing with a fraction, 8/3. So that's what, 2 2/3. So we'd have to go down -2 2/3, which might be a little bit uglier. Here I could just plot the point 2, -4, and then go down to the right 3, which might be a little bit easier. Okay, so there's my slope intercept form. Move it over to get it to standard. I'll move up here. So we would get a positive 2/3 x plus y equals -8/3. What are we going to multiply everything by? 3. Good. So then we would be left with 2x plus 3y equals -8. That would be our standard form. Okay. Questions with any of that? Try one on your own. See if you can do it. Your 2 points are going to be -1, 6. And let's go with 3 and 4. Let's take it all the way down through standard form. Alright, so I'm going to give you the 2 points of 2, 5, and 1, 5. What's going to be the slope of those 2 points? So the slope gets me 5 minus 5 over 1 minus 2, which is 0 over -1, which is 0. So now I have a slope of 0. Okay, well, if I were to put this into point slope form, what would that look like? Yeah, because if you think about it, you would do, if I use this first point, y minus 5 equals 0 times x minus 2, right? And what happens when you distribute that 0? It cancels everything out. So now you're left with y minus 5 equals 0. Move the 5 over, which gets you right away to y equals 5. Now, Devin got there right away. How do you know to get there right away? Both y's are 5. Good. So if you think about if you were to plot these points on the number line, or not on the number line, the coordinate plane, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is here, and 1, 5 is here. If I were to make a line going through them, it would be a horizontal line. So whenever your y's are the same, it's going to end up getting you a slope of 0. You don't remember that. Find the slope using the slope formula, and you'll get to 0. Then you should be looking, oh, well, my slope's 0. That's interesting. What is the same? Well, my 5 is the same. So it's end up going to be a horizontal line. So I'm remembering that a horizontal line has a slope of 0. And my horizontal line is going through the same y value of 5. So we get to y equals 5. So here is my answer in slope-intercept form. Can I take that to standard form? No, because there's no x anymore. So that is just your final answer. What happens if you end up with an undefined slope? So here I have -3, 5 and -3, 7. So now it's not the y's that are the same, it's the x's that are the same. So when you go to find slope, 7 minus 5 over -3 minus a -3, which gets you 2 over 0. Now remember, we can't have 0 in a denominator, so that gets me undefined. Well, this is where it gets a little bit tricky, because I can't plug in an undefined into point slope form. So none of my forms are going to be helpful for me. So that's the one thing you do need to remember. If you end up getting with an undefined slope, remember that's a vertical line. And our vertical lines always start with x equals. And here you just have to look up at your points. My x is equal to what digits, or which number? -3 in both those points. So I would end up with x equals -3. Okay, so be aware of your points. If you see them having the same y coordinate, it's probably going to be a horizontal line. Well, it will be a horizontal line going through that same y coordinate. If they have the same x coordinate, it's going to be a vertical line, and you're just going to write it x equals -3. Okay, so that's where it gets a little bit tricky. All right, let's talk parallel and perpendicular lines yet. So now we're going to find the equation of the line passing through a point that is going to be A, parallel, and B, perpendicular to a specific line. All right, so our point is -4, 5. And my equation of my line is 2x plus 3y equals 6. All right, we're going to do parallel first. All right. Well, let's first visualize what's happening. You don't have to put this in your notes, just watch. What would be my x-intercept of that line? 3, right? So 1, 2, 3. What would be my y-intercept? 2. Okay, so if I graph that, that's that line right there. Point -4, let's go in a different color here, -4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 4, 5 is, let's say, somewhere up here. Oops, that's a little high. So I need to write the equation of the line that goes through this point and is parallel to that purple line. So what should be true about their slopes? They need to be the same. So I need to figure out what the slope of this line is. How would you find the slope? Would you guys just solve for y? Put it into slope-intercept form, probably. Okay, so if I solve this for y, move your 2x over. So it'd be 3y equals -2x plus 6. Divide by 3 everywhere. And I'm not even going to worry about simplifying it because all I care about is this number right here. Because that's your m, right? That's your slope. All right, so now I need to write an equation of a line that passes through this point and is parallel, which means it's going to have the same slope. All right, so now we know how to do this. Point slope form first. Y minus my 5 equals -2/3 times the quantity x plus 4. Distribute. So -2/3 x minus 8/3 equals y minus 5. Add 5 to 8/3, so that would be what? -8/3 plus 15/3, so 7/3? Yeah, right? You guys going with it? -2/3 x plus, what did I just say, 7/3? There's my slope-intercept form. Take it to standard. Move the 2/3 over, so it'll be a +2/3 x plus y equals 7/3. Multiply everything by 3. So it'd be 2x plus 3y equals 7. Would be the equation of the line that is parallel. So notice the left side looks exactly like the left side up here because we do have the same slope. Now what would change if I needed to do part B perpendicular? Kyle?
Would the slope be a +3 or 2?
It would. All right, so now we're going to do perpendicular. Which means that my slope has to be opposite in sign and reciprocal. It's a +3/2. I'll just go through the same process. So y minus 5 equals 3/2 times x plus 4. So it's going to be a little bit nicer because 4 will divide by 2 nice. So y minus 5 equals 3/2 x plus 3 times 4 is 12. 12 divided by 2 is 6. Add your 5. Y equals 3/2 x plus 11. Finish it up to standard form. Move that 3/2 over. So -3/2 x plus y equals 11. I'm going to multiply everything by a -2 to get rid of that negative in front. So we get +3x minus 2y equals -22. Okay, so parallel, perpendicular. Questions? All right, that is it for